New lesson, new things to learn. I love this one. This one's cool. I love them all. I'm going to stop saying that at the beginning of each of these. But this is a great one. We are going to learn how to create this animation, and through it, we're going to learn a couple things. We're going to learn one of my favorite techniques when making motion graphics if we're using patterns. So I'm calling it sort of like the flying through planes technique. I didn't really think through that. But what it allows you to do is create these patterns that move and relate to each other, and you can fly a camera through it, and it creates these really, really cool looking animations. But the pattern we're making is really going to help you understand materials quite a bit more, especially when it comes to scaling them, lining them up, and what is their relationship from texture to texture. Do they have anything to do with each other? And this is a really, really good one. It looks awesome. You can use it for whatever. So let's hop into it. So here we go. We are going to be in a blank document, and we're going to hit Shift-A. We're going to get a plane, and I'm going to hit S4, Control-A, apply that scale, and then while we're here, we might as well hit RX90 to get him positioned in the right way. So let's set up the first material. This is all going to be procedural stuff. So hop into the shading tab, and we are going to kill him and kill him. Lots of killing in this course. You weren't ready for that, were you? All right, so we're going to click New and set up a few things. So for materials in Eevee, so might as well switch over to the Eevee render engine. So for materials to work with transparency in the Eevee render engine, we have to kind of tell it, hey, please be transparent. So you have to click on this little material button here, go to Settings, this guy right here, and then we're going to go from blend mode from opaque, which is going to be no transparency whatsoever, to come back alpha blend. All right, so let's go ahead and get in two shaders here. So we're going to hit Shift A, and we need to get something to mix them. So we're going to get that mix shader node, put that here, and we need to get a transparency, and we need to get an emission. So we'll go here, we'll plug it here, and then let's go ahead and pick a color. It does not have to be blue. It could be yellow. It can be anything you want it to be. So now let's go ahead and say, hey, how do these guys relate to each other? Because this transparency is going to be our ability to cut a hole through this flat shape, and we're going to use textures to create those holes. So we're going to use a color ramp, and we're going to plug that into the factor. And let's first go ahead and create our brick texture. So we're going to hit Control T and use the object coordinate, and we'll get our brick texture and plug it here. So we need to set up a couple things so that this looks proper. So with the brick texture, we're really just creating what might look like a wireframe. So these three colors here, he's going to stay pure black, but this guy needs to be pure white, and this guy as well needs to be pure white. Now we have our wireframe, and if it looks like this, that means you need to flip your color ramp. So just go ahead and flip that color ramp back. Let's bring that offset here. Here on the mortar smoothness, bring that to 0, and then brick width, click and drag and do a scale of 1. Now it's very important to use a scale of 1 so that we learn how all of these are related. And then here on the scale, we're also going to tell him B1. So there we go. Now we have this, and then you can bring your strength up to like 20. Now we have this guy doing what this guy is guying. We'll say it like that. So now I want to get some spheres to be here, similar to like instance on points and doing the wireframing and adding something on that. But in this case, we're doing like a flat thing. So I don't know. I love that design look. We're going to go ahead and create that. So we're going to get in a mix color. And this mixed color can allow us to combine patterns together. And this guy, he's going to be, we're going to make him black so that he is saying, hey, which part do I want to reveal? Because again, in this case, black is, I believe black means transparent because the mix is plugged in the mix shader, which means black and white are going to mean two different things. So in this case, it is a black and white texture being plugged into it. Black means where's this guy going to show up? White means where's this emission going to show up? I believe. It could be inverse, like white could mean that, black could mean that. It really just depends on what you're doing. But black and white, basically one is going to be the black, one is going to be the white. That's the whole thing to think about. So that's what we're thinking about when we're saying, hey, what color should B be? So it looks like white is transparency and black is emission. Fun stuff. And so now we're going to say, how do we kind of set that up? So we're going to get another color ramp, and we're going to get a Voronoi texture, and I think, yeah, we can use the same mapping here, and then plug distance into the color ramp, and then plug that into the factor. So now we have this going on here. We can crunch it in, but first let's go ahead and bring that randomness down and bring our scale, very important, to 1. And now you can see our circles, but I'm going to go ahead and flip my color ramp so that our circles do this. And then we're going to go from linear to constant so we can have a hard edge. And there we have it. Now that's one thing that I wanted you to notice is, hey, scale of 1, scale of 1, scale of 1, right? They're all relating to each other. And because we're using a scale of 1, it's all going to line up properly, which means that if we want to control them all at the same time, you can get a value node and then tell him be a scale of 1, and then just plug that into the scale here and plug that into the scale here. And then now you can scale them both together, and we like that. So I'm going to give him a scale of 5 just so we can exist here and have a really cool looking material. Now I want to go ahead and have a bunch of, I want to randomly fill in these cubes here. So the way I'm going to do that is actually, before it gets confusing, I know there's another design element I want to get to here. So see on this emission, I want to give it some variation in strength, how much blue. But first off, see that color here? Doesn't look like that, right? That's because we're in AGX, and AGX is good for realism. But I'm not going for realism here. So I'm going to click on the camera icon, go here to color management, and go from AGX to Filmic. Look at that. Now it's working. And then we're going to go to a high contrast. All right, so now we are back, maybe give it a strength of 10. But what I want to do is have a little bit of variation in the color, because that is going to make it look a little more interesting, look a little more professional, more intentional, and specifically the reason why it looks like all that, because it looks organic. So let's go ahead and get in a color ramp right here. And then I'm going to hover over here, hit Control C, click on him, Control V, and we'll plug him into color. And then we're going to get a noise texture, NOI, noise texture, and then we will plug that mapping into him and plug him into color ramp. So now what we can do is just bring this color in and see that. And so what we can do is if we go to Eevee and then switch our world brightness to black, look a little bit better. We'll bring our detail to 0 and then bring that scale back up, and then see this guy? I'm going to copy this and then paste it and then just bring it down a little bit. So notice how this looks. It becomes a little bit more organic looking, maybe something like this. There we go. If we bring that color down, I mean that brightness down, it becomes a little more obvious. But now we have this really nice looking wireframe where there's some things going on. It looks a little more organic, and you might appreciate it. Maybe you don't like it at all, but I wanted to have some color variation because I really, really like the way that that comes off. All right, so now that we're here, let's get back to creating these little cubes that reveal themselves. And the way we're going to do that, see this mix shader here? We're going to plop another one here. This whole thing, imagine it to be one shader. Whenever you're doing this, the way to really think about that is this whole thing is now effectively a single shader that we now want to mix another shader with. So I'm going to hit Shift D, and then we're just going to use a new emission, plug him here. We're going to go up. We're going to get a color ramp, plug him here. And then we're going to get a Voronoi. And then I know from experience, we're going to need to move this guy around. So we're going to get a new mapping setup and use object. I hit Control T for that mapping. And in this case, we are going to use color because we just want flat stuff. So here we go. This is how it looks. And we're going to go to random. And there we go. Now we have these cubes coming in and out. There we go. How cool is this? And then if I go to 4D, the animation that I want to achieve is this. but not really. We'll talk about it, but we'll talk about that in a second. Notice how the cubes are actually on the point and not, I'm calling them points and faces. They're not, but it's on the point here, this cross section instead of this. So in this case, in cases like this, we are going to, well, one, we're going to plug this value into scale. Well, one, we're going to plug value into scale so it maps properly. So here we go. We're back. It's not, it's in the middle, right? It is not, I mean, it's, in the middle of the cross section. So what are we going to have to do? We are going to have to move him over a little bit. So just a little bit. And then I just want to single one out just so I can see him. And then we'll bring him down. So we'll bring him down like this. Is it annoying? Yeah, it's a little annoying. And then if we want to go crazier, see how you can see he's overlapping? Let's go ahead and figure that out now. So what we can do is get a mix color. And then let's say, does he need to be black? Yep, so that's the black is going to reveal him leaving. And then you can plug, this is my first time doing this. I actually have not rehearsed this essentially. We plug that into the factor. It should, so let's see, we need to get an invert node. So see how it did the opposite, right? It clipped this instead of removing it. It showed that and hid this. I want to show this and hide this overlap. So I think if we get an invert, perfect. Okay, so we just invert it. We use this invert. So see that? It's like flipping, it's literally like flipping the color ramp. So if we invert it now, we don't have to worry about that. All right, so now we're here. I want to reveal to you a new problem. And the problem is this animation is ugly, the way it looks. It's jumpy, 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 jumpy. I want it to be kind of a smooth move around. And when I was working on this, I thought, I like the way that the wave texture moves things around. Is there a way we can combine them? And you can literally just combine them. So we have this section right here, which is creating, right? This entire section here creates these new cubes. So what can we do? Right here, we can add a wave texture. And it is basically, it's a wave texture that we then plopped a Voronoi to create the cubes. But if we play with the phase offset, look at that. See how much better that looks? If I just go ahead and remove him, we can go back. This is the W. I guess it's fine. It looks kind of carnival looking. But if we go to the wave texture and play with the phase, it is a much more satisfying movement. And so this really is something that will come from you just playing around in the program and seeing what works. And just like slapping paint on the wall. And that was literally what I did when I created this. I was like, let me just put the wave texture on there, see what happens. And slapped paint on the wall, and it happened to work out in my favor. So this looks really cool. All right, so now I want to show you a really cool effect that the Voronoi node allows. Right here is this detail slider. So I'm going to hold down shift so it's very incremental. And if I bring it in, you'll notice, well, look at all this. And then if you play with the phase offset, it's going to create these little things, right? So the more detail, the more essentially pixels we're creating. So what I want to do is just do 0.02, just so it's, not quite there, maybe 0.01 maybe. And if you play with that phase offset, it's going to create this effect. So rather than, I'm just going to copy that, rather than looking like this, which might be your preference, you might like that, add some detail. And we now have an even more interesting transition in and out of that cube, basically revealing itself. And I just think it looks so freaking cool and digital and weird. And here's the randomness. But yeah, I think it looks awesome. I'm going to run with it for my animation. You, of course, certainly do not have to do it if you don't like it. So I'm going to bring him right about that brightness. And now we're ready to set up this animation and start looping and making it look cool. So here, let's go ahead and Shift A. I'm gonna get a plane and I'm gonna hit S5, and that's gonna be the scale of our collection. So I'm gonna take him and I'm gonna hold down Control and bring him here. And then I'm going to hit Alt D, bring him to the middle. And then I'm going to hit, now Alt D means these guys are the same. So if I remove a material from this plane, it's automatically going to remove it, which means I'm going to get a new plane right here and we're going to put a new material on it. So I'm going to hit, instead of Alt D, I'm going to hit Shift D, and then I'm going to hold down Control and put him here. I'm going to hit H and remove him, and we're just going to look at this material now. So we'll go back to shading, and we're going to click on him. So see him? That's the new one we made. That's in the middle. That's the Shift D, not the Alt D one. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to click. We're actually just going to totally remove it. Click New. And then I'm going to delete this. And we can call it dots if we want. We're going to create a few dots for some visual interest for our animation. So let's get that mix shader. Plug it here. We're going to go ahead and get an ATRANS, transparent BSDF, and a, well, that says translucent. So TRANS, transparent, and then we're going to get emission here. This one's going to be really, really simple compared to that one. So we're going to get our color ramp, plug it here, Voronoi, hit Control T, use the object coordinate, just going through the motions as we always do. And then we're going to bring that random and then bring this, actually no, it's going to be this one, bring it in. Now we have our dots, and then you can see you can't see through it, right? But it says transparent. That's because it's on opaque. So click on the material button and go from opaque here in the settings, opaque to alpha blend. Now we have that, and then I'm going to click on him. I'm going to hover over this color here, Control C, click back on him on the emission, Control V, and give it a strength of like 10 for now. Let's go back to layout, and I'm going to reveal that hidden one, which is right there. And then I'm going to take this guy, which has the dots, and I'm going to hit Alt D, and then I'm going to hold down Control and move him there. So they're about equal space apart, but this is not really that important to be exact. But pretty much here, this guy here, put him in the middle, and then they're both going to have their own companion there, which is going to be those new materials that we created. Now we can just go ahead and highlight them, hit M, new collection, LOOP, enter. Then hit Shift A, collection instance, loop, and then hold down Control and bring them back here. And then I'm going to hit Alt D, and we're going to make quite a few of these. So Alt D, holding down Control every time. You can see I made a mistake. All right, we'll go here. And then I'll Alt D one more time. Because it's not very heavy on the geometry, you can kind of do it forever, and it should not make your computer lag. And then I'm going to click on this guy and hit P just to center everything out. So now we have, I'm going to delete him. We now have all of this here that we can then get our camera. Now remember, when we imported that plane that I just deleted, the white one, I hit S5, so we know our animation is going to be -5 to +5, but I'm actually going to double it. So let's actually bring that plane back here to kind of show this visually. I'm going to hit Shift A, get my camera, and then I'm going to hit the tilde key again, tilde key, top. We can actually see each instance here. So I like 250, but we're going to do 300 because we're going to have this big camera rotation. I want a little extra time so that camera rotation is not too fast and like debilitating to look at. So I'm going to hit the back arrow to go to frame 0. Click on my camera. We'll go to the transform settings, and here on the Y, I'm going to click it, and then we'll go to the very end at 300. And then normally, oops, first off, we need to start at -5. There we go. Now we'll click keyframe and go to the end. Now, normally I would stop here, but I'm actually just going to click it. And I'm going to show you why I don't want to stop there. It's too slow. It's much too slow. And we're going to fix running into the material as well. It's just too slow. And so what I want to do is go back. I'm going to hit the tilde key and go to the top. Bring my gizmos back. I'm going to go to the very end, and you can always overwrite keyframes. So I want to go to the next one, and then I'm going to hit I to overwrite that keyframe. So now it's going to go a little bit faster, and then now we can look at it. slightly faster, and it's a speed that I like. Now, we're going to go to the world icon, go to volume, and then use that fading effect, so principled volume, and then we can bring it in like this. So now we have a much better looking animation. Now we have some things to fix. We need to move some stuff around here. So we're going to go back here to shading. I'm going to hit 0 to go to my camera view, and then I'm going to click, and it's showing the one with the dots, which let's fix this first. You can see the dot has a faded look. We need to go from linear to constant, and now we have that. And then, or I'm going to, if we click and then we double click, it's going to select the plane that's behind this plane. So now we have access to these materials here. Oh, that looked kind of sick, actually. Oh, well. So first what I want to do is bring up the strength of everything here so that we can see it better. And then we can just kind of press play and we'll notice we're going to run right into this. So we're going to go to the mapping. This is the mapping that's controlling the cross sections and the dots. And so that is going to be, we're going to move it. We're just going to do 0.5. Actually, let's get closer. There we go. So we'll move it to something like here. There we go. And then I guess we'll do 0.1 as well. And then now we'll fly through it. But now notice these guys are back to being offset. And so, of course, you can always fix that with the mapping set up here. So I'm going to zoom in here, and then we'll bring them over like that. And I'm holding down Shift, so it's a much more controlled and easier managed movement. There we go. Now we're flying through it, and it looks awesome. And then this guy, ooh. So I'm going to go, we're going to get a timeline. I'm going to go back to the front, and I'm going to click. I'm gonna hit the period key so we can reveal these guys. So we're now back on the simple one, and we can do, I guess we'll do 0.1 on these guys as well, and that'll offset them to the middle. So now we have this animation. What I want to do is that everything's too distracting, so I'm gonna click on the camera here, and then we're gonna go to viewport display and bring that Passepartout 2 up, and then it's gonna show, all right, I kind of want my camera to be wider angle. So click on the camera, click on the little green camera icon, which we're already there, and we're going to do 25. Pretty wide angle. There we go. Looks pretty cool. So let's go ahead and start animating and doing some stuff. So in my world, I do want to fade in a little bit more so we can just focus on these guys here in the front and have that opacity down. So we're going to go, are we still in shading? No, we need to go back to shading. And hit the period key. We'll need to go back to the beginning. Let's go about here, and then make sure you click on the plane with the big material. I'm just going to call it the big material. And then maybe make these guys bright, make these guys a little brighter. And let's go ahead and animate the wave texture, which is going to be up here. This guy. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go back to frame 0. Bring your phase offset to 0. We're going to hit I, go to the very end, and then I'm going to type in, I don't know, 6 asterisk PI. Oh, that looks good. And then he goes right through him. So see that? Watch this. We're going to go right. He's going to reveal himself right there, which, of course, we can always fix by moving it over. There we go. Now we don't have to worry about that. And so you can just go ahead and kind of fix that as you want. This looks really, really cool. Oh, it did it again. So you can always just go ahead and fix that and just move these guys over. You can always just remove them. And then will that create another problem? No, it won't. All right, we're here. Looks awesome. We're gonna go back to layout, and what I wanna do is animate my camera rotating. So I'm gonna go back to frame 0. Click on the camera, go to the transform settings, and we are going to rotate him doing that. So start here. To make it a seamless loop, it needs to be a full 360-degree rotation. So 360, enter, and then hit I. And now we have a really cool looking animation. Oh, and it did it again. You'll have to just go in and fix that. All this fun stuff is completely up to you. There we go. Looks really cool. There's a lot of tweaking that I would do to this. One, I would make this wireframe thinner. So we can go back to the shading. Is this the big one? Yep. All right. So we'll go to my brick texture, wireframe. Definitely want to make it so mortar size 1, and then which would mean here in the Voronoi, I'm going to make the dot a little smaller. And then I want fewer of these cubes showing up. So I'm going to go out here, and I'm just going to bring this in. There we go. Cool. And honestly, I did P*6 on the wave texture. I kind of want to slow it down. So we're gonna do 4 asterisk pi, and then hit I. I think this is a better looking animation. And then we'll of course fix all those running intos, whatever. Yeah, so we'll fix that. Looks like that's going to be the only one. So we'll move him down this time. And then we'll see. Does it create another problem? No. All right, I think we're good. Please don't. Yes, all right, we're good. Hey, we're good. We did it. We created an awesome looking animation. Made it look nice. Made it look clean. Camera's rotating. We have these objects flying through. Maybe we make them smaller, get more of them. And let's do that since we're already here. Click him. See, let's get the smaller one, which is these guys. And so let's go, it says scale of 5. Let's do scale of 10. And then, of course, we're running right into him. So what if we did like that? Cool. And then we'll make them smaller too. Nice. And this is a really, really clean looking, really nice looking animation. Professional, great for website backgrounds, concert visuals. If you're adding text on top of something and you need an interesting background for that text, the graphic design / motion design applications for this, I think, are really cool. So there we go. That's the lesson. I love this one. It's cool. We learned about taking these procedural materials and lining them up properly and getting them to work together to look good, look nice, have fun. And now we're here. There we go. We're done. You go ahead and render this out, use it for whatever you want, and we will move on to the next lesson.